So in this video, we're going to go through 5 more examples of factorising a quadratic expression where the coefficient of x squared is not 1. Now, in each of these cases, the coefficient of x squared is minus 1. So how can we get around the fact that we have a negative in front of the x squared? So there are 2 avenues you could potentially go down here. The first one is to factor minus 1 out of the whole thing first. Okay, so let me just show you that, but I'm not going to do this as a general method. Okay, so if I was doing the first one, what I could do is I could write this as factoring minus 1 out of the whole thing. So I would have minus 1 lots of x squared, minus 1 lots of x, and then minus 1 lots of minus 2. So I've essentially changed the sign of everything, all the terms, and I've brought it outside the bracket. I would then factorise this quadratic as it stands. So I've still got the minus sign, but I'm not going to be worried about the minus sign. I'm just factorising what's inside there. So I would be looking at 2 numbers that multiply together make minus 2, but add together to make 1. Okay, so that would be 2 and minus 1. So x plus 2, x minus 1. Okay, and now it is factorised. Now, this is one way of doing it, okay? Now, that's not really going to help me a lot when I've got minus 2x squared or minus 5x squared or minus 8x squared out the front, rather than just minus 1 lot of x squared. But if it's just minus 1 lot of x squared, I could do it this way, okay? What I'm instead going to do is I'm going to go back to my regular way of doing it when the coefficient of x squared isn't 1. Okay? Now, hold that thought, okay, for the first example. So I'm just going to write down that answer just to remind us what we got. Okay? So, out the front of the x squared is minus 1. So we're going to multiply that with the 2. So minus 1 times 2, which of course is minus 2. So we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply together make minus 2, but add together to make the coefficient of x, which is minus 1. Okay? So that would be minus 2 and positive 1. So I'm going to rewrite this as minus x squared, and I'm going to split the minus x up into minus 2x plus x. And then I've got the plus 2. I then factorise the 2 halves. So with minus x squared take away 2x, I could factor out minus x. And I would have in the bracket x plus 2. Now I know that I need x plus 2 here, so I'm going to have plus 1 lot of x plus 2. So one bracket is x plus 2, and the other bracket is minus x plus 1. Which, alternatively, I could write, because I could just reorganise those. It's like saying a plus b is the same as b plus a, right? So this is the same as 1 take away x. Okay, so minus x plus 1 is the same as 1 plus minus x, which is 1 take away x. So that's my answer there. Remember, that is the answer that I got previously. Okay, I had the minus sign all the way outside. Now, when we're fully factorising, you can have the minus sign all the way out the outside, or you can have it inside the bracket. It really doesn't matter, okay, with fully factorising. So either of these 2 forms is perfectly fine, but you may be going, well, they look different. They both have x plus 2, But what about this 1 minus x and this x minus 1? They look different. So what I want to show you is how they are both the same. So what you can do is you can factor minus 1 out of those two terms. So if you did that, you'd have a bracket within a bracket, okay? What would we have? Well, we'd have minus 1 plus x, wouldn't we? Because minus 1 times minus 1 makes the 1, minus 1 times x makes the minus x. So what you've got here is x plus 2, and I'm going to get rid of this outer shell bracket now, and we have times by this minus 1 times by this minus 1 plus x. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that minus 1 to the front, and then I'm going to have the x plus 2, and then I'm going to have the minus 1 plus x. Now, minus 1 times is the same as minus x plus 2, and then I just reorganise those two terms and have instead x take away 1. And you can see I get back to precisely what's there. So both of those two forms are identical. They are the same. It's just where you choose to put that minus sign. Okay? So, because I think it's useful that we see this format, I'm going to leave it like this. Okay? So I'm going to put all my answers in that style. So we're going to have x plus 2, 1 minus x. Okay, so that's enough preamble. Let's get on with number 2. So first of all, multiply the minus 1 by the 6. So minus 1 times 6 is minus 6. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together make minus 6, but add together to make minus 1. Okay, so that would be minus 3 and 2. So minus x squared, take away 3x plus 2x plus 6. Factorise the first half, factor out minus x, and we're going to have x plus 3. And then we've got two lots of x plus 3. So one bracket is x plus 3, the other bracket is minus x plus 2. And I can write that as x plus 3 times by, rather than writing that, 2 take away x. So just reorganising those two terms. That's neater. Okay, number 3. First of all, minus 1 times the 15. So minus 15, so we're looking for two numbers that multiply together make minus 15, but add together to make minus 2. So that would be minus 5 and 3. So minus x squared minus 5x plus 3x plus 15. So factor the minus x out of the first two terms, and then you've got x plus 5, and then we're going to have three lots of x plus 5. So x plus 5 is one bracket, minus x plus 3 is the other. So we're going to have x plus 5, and then 3 minus x. Okay? Right, number 4. First of all, multiply the minus 1 by the minus 15. So 15, we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to make 15, but add together to make 8. So that would be 3 and 5. So minus x squared plus 3x plus 5x take away 15. So factor the minus x out of the first two terms, and you would get x take away 3. And then factor the 5 out of these two terms, and you're going to get x take away 3. So one of the brackets is x take away 3, the other bracket is minus x plus 5. So x take away 3, and I'll write it as 5 take away x. Now my final example I've written in a different way, okay, to be annoying. So rather than write it as the x squared term, then, so the quadratic term, then the linear term, then the constant term, I've actually got the linear term, the constant term, and the quadratic term in that order. So you are perfectly at liberty to first of all rewrite this as minus x squared plus 13x take away 36. Okay, there is nothing wrong with doing that. So we're going to first of all multiply the minus 1 by the minus 36. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to make 36, but add together to make 13. Okay. Well, not 12 and 3. Not 18 and 2. 3 and 12, 4 and 9. 4 and 9. So 4 and 9. So minus x squared plus 4x plus 9x take away 36. So factor the minus x out of the first two terms, we're going to get x take away 4, and then factor the 9 out of those to get x take away 4. So one of the brackets is x take away 4, and the other bracket is minus x plus 9. So x take away 4, and then 9 take away x.